Okay, let's get started now. In three, two, and now we're here with new. Blah, blah, blah. Let's take two. This is why we do it, but this will go up all on video, so it's perfect. So this will make us see how bad we screw up. Three,
Excellent.
two, and now we're here with new friend of the show, author Christen Stovall. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the station. For those people who may not be familiar with your work, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I write mostly high fantasy, but I also have a sort of Victorian historical fantasy series out as well. Basically, I just come up with stories and then live in my imagination.
Awesome, awesome. Were you always attracted to fantastical tales from a young age?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember my mother reading The Hobbit to me when I was just like in early grade school, and I grew up in Kansas, so of course The Wizard of Oz, and then the
Sure,
Chronicle.
sure.
It's my bread and butter.
Yeah, yeah. But reading Hobbit, that's like hardcore. Well, yeah, that's a little bit more than just like the standard like Peter Pan or Wizard of
Yeah.
Oz or that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I definitely kind of skipped a lot of kids' books and went straight into like, I want the chapter books.
But
Gotcha.
that's pretty
So,
awesome because it's a great series to start with and
It
everything.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's because like when I was growing up, when I was little, my parents started me with The Hobbit, but they made me wait a
Yeah.
couple of years until they said, "Oh, wait till you're in junior high for Lord of the Rings and everything."
Yeah. Now, I think I was first, second grade when my mom read it to me as a little girl and absolutely loved The Hobbit. And then I did wait until I was older for Lord of the Rings because I was sort of annoyed that it was a new Hobbit and not Bilbo. And now I've got over it. I'm good now.
Awesome. When did you sort of make the decision to start writing fantasy as opposed to just sort of reading it?
Well, it's interesting. I actually started out doing theater and wanting to tell stories that way, and I still love it. In fact, I just went to a show at our local theater and was like, "Oh, I miss doing this."
Hmm.
And through the course of that, as I got into my late teens, early 20s, I realized I really wanted to tell my own stories and not be confined to what someone else wrote. So then I kind of started playing around just with like Tolkien fan fiction, just for fun, just with some friends. And then, but I never wanted to write about the main characters. I always wanted to pick like obscure secondary characters, and
Okay.
then it graduated to I wanted to make my own characters. And after that, I was like, wait a minute, maybe I just want to write something that's mine. And I started writing for fun, and then I ended up meeting a young man and getting married. Ironically, I met him through the community theater, and it was wonderful. I we bought a house. We did the wanting to have a family thing. We didn't have any children, but about a year and a half into our marriage, after a battle with depression and chronic pain, he ended his life, and I was left not having a clue how to go forward. And it was through that and the grieving process that the idea and concepts for the first book in my trilogy came to mind, and then that turned into a trilogy. And then I have the Song of Souls trilogy, which is Soulbound, Soulfire, and Boundless. And I finished a prequel to it called The Twisted Path, and that came out in December. And then the rest of this year, I put out a co-written series with Jennifer Sanders called The Fate-Toiuch Chronicles, which is a completely different universe. So I've been busy.
Yeah, yeah, it made up for lost time for sure. And are these do you have a publisher for these? Are these self-published, or how do you get the books out?
They're independently published, but I do hire a professional editor and have them edited. And then, I it's a whole process of self-loathing and glasses of wine.
Absolutely. I have been there, done that. Yes. I
Yeah.
understand now that that process can be rather painful.
Yes, and it's published under my umbrella company of Boundless Fantasy, and we have a few other things that we put out as well, including handmade perfumes and stickers and just basically anything to enhance. If you come to a booth at a Comic-Con that I'm at, like I want it to feel like you're at a market in a fantasy realm. So anything that enhances that and just makes it fun for the fantasy lover.
Well, it sounds like the Song of Souls trilogy in particular is one that is very much personal to you, I would say, right?
Yes,
Obvious
yes,
for
it
obvious
is.
reasons. And what was in that process like of sort of channeling that sort of everything that you were going through?
Well, my husband was well known in the community, and this is a small town, and his death was rather public. So I found myself grieving in a very public way. It was like going through the worst thing and like that could happen to me in a fishbowl. And writing the books gave me a way to talk about what I was feeling and what I was going through that was safe and had that level of separation. The main characters, Aislinn and Rory, they are not me. They are not Dustin. Uh, there are a few things in common. Aislinn is a widow. Rory is the spirit of her soulmate after he's passed away, and her pet name for him is the same. But for the most part, I tried to have a very clear, not us,
Hmm.
just fantasy thing, because that's a little too much, little too up close and personal.
Yeah.
So that, it just gave me that ability to work through it, to find purpose in what happened, and to say goodbye. Because when you're 28 and you're supposed to have your whole life ahead of you, and then it just gets completely thrown out the window, it really just gave me closure, and it gave me that chance to say goodbye, and then it gave me a sense of purpose and direction, and now I'm just really happy with where my life is.
And the response from readers is something that is sort of a tool that they can use as well, you think? Or
Yeah, I've had a few people. One really memorable interaction was another young widow who reached out to me after I think she'd read the first book and had read my story, and she reached out to me and needed someone to talk to who'd been there, and that was a really impactful moment to know that what I had created was helping somebody through what I endured. And it was a really humbling and powerful moment. And I've had other people who've come forward and said, this was so great because I could identify with loss and the journey of working through that. And it's it's really a good feeling to know that something that you love doing and that you're passionate about and that helped you is also helping other people.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think the best fantasy tales are ones that, I mean, as fantastic as it can get, as and fantastic as you can make the world and the characters and everything around, like the sort of magic that happens within the story, if it doesn't have that sort of, if it's not grounded in heart, if it's not grounded in
Yeah,
emotion, real emotion, I think it I mean, people can sense that, right? And it's
I
not
think so.
something that yeah, that you sort of put through as an author either, right?
Right. I agree. I mean, I don't know that I can say that's true of every fantasy author that's ever written a really good fantasy story, but I do think that it does show that the stories like that there's something different to them. And maybe that's just my perception of them, but it does feel like there's just a level of depth that you don't always get in a book.
So the Song of Souls trilogy, you said, was released, and then you released another sort of chapter in that, the Twisted Path, right? Is that part of that sort of an extra chapter or an addition? Are you planning on still playing around in this world?
The Twisted Path is a prequel that takes place about 200 years before the trilogy, and it's a prequel
Gotcha.
in yeah, in a similar way to The Hobbit is a prequel to Lord of the Rings, and that there are connections and there are things that do sort of follow through, but they're not necessarily like a complete full stop sequel, because Bilbo's story is very much Bilbo's story. There's just elements that carry through later on. And that's the same with the Twisted Path. These characters' story is very much their story, but it does impact what happens in the trilogy. And I am planning on returning to that world, but visiting it shortly after the end of the trilogy and with a new set of characters, though maybe a few of the
Gotcha.
old friends might pop in for a cameo or two.
I was thinking when you said prequel, I was like, well, prequels on fantasy tales are kind of a thing now.
Yeah.
we are experiencing quite a bit of that right now
Yeah.
in pop
Yeah.
culture, right?
Oh yeah.
Um,
I was a little hesitant to jump on the bandwagon, but I actually knew like the broad strokes of this story and these characters back when I started the trilogy. And in order to carry on with the story and the characters and location I want to after the trilogy, I needed to go back and actually establish these things. There was no room for them to fit organically in the trilogy, but they did need to be introduced.
and for the series that you're writing with Jennifer Sanders, how is it writing with someone else, writing with a partner? Is that got its own set of challenges?
It does. We're very lucky in that we've known each other for like 20 plus years at this point. So, and on and off throughout that time, we've written together just for fun. She was actually somebody who was present during my formative years as I was figuring out how to put a story together and write. She's always been there, and she knows me and she knows my writing style. We actually completed that series in May of this year. So the Fate-Toiuch Chronicles is a 4-book series that is completely out now, and it takes place in Victorian Scotland and England. But the challenge is, totally got off on a tangent there. The challenges are more when I write by myself, I keep business hours and I have like word counts that I try to hit. And when I'm writing with someone else, she has a family and a day job, and I have to be able to accommodate that. So the scheduling is different. And, I also have to be open to her vision of these characters and the story. And when you're used to writing by yourself, that can be a little hard sometimes. But like I said, we have a long-standing friendship, so we're able to work through it and find what works for both of us, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
The social element to it. We don't write together in the way many writers do, where they'll write sections or scenes. What we do is we write characters. So if I'm writing the male lead, she'll write the female lead, and then they'll have conversations back and forth, and I won't necessarily know what her character is going to say to what my character just said or did. And so there's like a role play element to it. But I mean, we always know like what needs to happen and where we need to go. It's just we don't necessarily know the details of how we get there.
Gotcha. And in addition to these two fantastical universes, are you planning on expanding and writing something else with that outside of these?
Yes, actually, I think probably at the beginning of next month, Jennifer and I will be starting a new trilogy that will be taking place. It sort of follows Robin Hood's daughter, and we have our own little magical twist on what's going on and medieval history and all of that. So, and we're both Robin Hood fans. So it's just fun to play with.
So in addition to whereas sort of the pure fantasy, you can make up that world yourself, but then these other tales, it sounds like it requires a little bit of research, right?
Yeah. These other ones, the ones I've written with her so far have all taken place, at some point in history in this world. We just then add elements of magic and different things that, we think would be fun and have a different take on a historical period or, folklore. So, but definitely some research. I like writing when it's a completely made up world and I can make the rules, but I do enjoy the challenge of having to work within a little bit more the confines of reality and history. So it's good to stretch the muscles.
They the covers make them appear that there's a lot of romance involved. Is that fair?
Yeah, the Fate-Toiuch Chronicles definitely have a lot of romance, but they also have a lot of action and adventure and some mystery. The first one, Seer's Choice, I would say is the most clear-cut romance, following a lot of those, um, just sort of that format. Although we also have mystery and all of that, it sort of sets up and builds the world and the different concepts, and a lot of it doesn't actually get resolved until the end of the second book. So those two are the most that are closely linked. They actually follow four schoolmates. Our four leading men who were friends growing up in a boarding school. So each book follows each one of their stories.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds very exciting. Any
Thank
other before we sort of get into the Geek Seat and find out what you're passionate about, where your real passions lie? Any other projects that you want to let us know about?
Well, no,
I mean,
I
it
pretty
sounds
much
like you're
told
busy
you what
enough.
I'm working on.
I mean, it sounds like you're more than busy enough. So
Yeah, I've been hitting the con circuits on and off as well. And
awesome.
I've had a little bit of a lull where I've been able to catch my breath these last few weeks. So I've been letting myself because I needed it. I've put out 5 books since December. I'm a little tired.
That is crazy. That is crazy. But
Thank you.
congratulations on that. That is impressive
you.
in and of itself. Mike, I think she's ready. I think we're ready to find out where her passions lie.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. All right, I'm ready for this.
Let's go.
All right, Christen, are you ready for your first question in the Geek Seat?
Hit me.
Oh, well, you got it. Christen, what was your favorite Geek Out moment?
Meeting Billy Boyd in Chicago.
Awesome. Want to tell us all about it?
I went to WizardCon in Chicago with some friends, one of whom cosplays Scarlet Witch, so she convinced me to cosplay Black Widow. And I got to meet Billy Boyd because he's my favorite Hobbit. Got a great photo op with him. And when I was in line to get his autograph, it was before a bunch of people had showed up to line up yet. So we got to sit and talk with him for a little while. I had this little pewter pen that says it comes in pints, which is my favorite Pippin line. And he looked up and he goes, "Oh, I quite like that." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. I had it made." And in my head, I was going, "I'm not giving it to you."
Oh, that is awesome. Let's look at the flip side of that, though. What was your most disappointing Geek Out moment?
Gosh, the end of Game of Thrones.
You're not the only one. You're totally not the only one with that.
I know.
Funny as heck, but you're not the only one with that.
No, I mean that's just the one that flew off the top of my head. I can't think of
You had
anything
no
more
problem
personal
going.
right
You
now.
just went bap. You're ready for that.
That was the easy one.
They get harder as they go on. I'm just warning you.
Okay, all right.
What geeks you out the most?
Ooh, gosh, anything that involves me getting to like wear a costume or men with swords.
Gotcha. So if they're in costume and they have swords with them, it's even more so?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Major swooning.
Okay. And now if they're in a kilt, watch out,
I'm more of an armor person, but if they're on a horse, watch out,
Okay. Okay. What turns your geek off?
Politics.
Welcome to the club. Get amongst friends here.
Anytime a show or book tries to preach to me, I'm like, I want escapism, not lessons.
That is awesome. What fictional character would you like to meet the most?
Ooh, what fictional character would I like to meet the most? God, there's a lot of them. Honestly, and I would like to be in a room with any one of my characters, actually get to talk to them. No, not any one of them. Some of them I'm really mean to. So not those ones because they'd be mad.
Oh, you're the creator. Hold on. We need to talk there.
You're the one who came up with that. Maybe.
We need to have a talk, young lady. What fictional character would you like to meet the least, or does that tie into the last one we just talked about?
But I like to meet the least. Sauron. That would not be good.
No.
Big flamey eyeball. I just feel like there's no way that meeting's gonna be comfortable.
No. He would see right through you. It's pretty obvious.
Exactly.
What is your favorite geek word, phrase, quote, or pose?
It comes in pints.
Sounds familiar.
Or May the Force be with you. I mean, that's a classic.
That is a classic. I like the other one too, though.
Yeah, because that just is applicable to so much in life, you know?
You know, Billy Boyd is somewhere now going, I should have gotten that pen. I should have gotten that pen.
Yeah, he lives with regret because I didn't give him the pin.
What is your ideal geek occupation?
Being a writer. And I do that, so it's fine.
You're living the dream. What geek occupation would you not like to do, though?
Oof, what would I not like to do? I don't think that I would want to like, I don't know, so many of them are appealing.
True.
Well, if we're gonna go with like some sort of fantasy geek occupation, I think there's some jobs like on the Enterprise that I wouldn't want, that I feel like would just be boring. Like, imagine if you're the transporter chief, like there's just nothing to do until someone needs to transport. That'd be so boring.
You're dusting the machine to make sure it's ready.
Exactly.
Or it's like, ooh, maybe I could, beam a meteorite over here. Or maybe I could do this.
Yeah, I would end up doing things with the transporter that would just be stupid, you know. One of the captains would walk in. Why are there 15,000 of those they look like tribbles, but I think maybe they're off-brand tribbles. You know? Like they were cuddly.
It's like, oh, hold on, they started with one captain. They just kept on multiplying.
Oops.
Oops. All right. Christen, are you ready for your final question in the Geek Seat?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
This is for all your marbles. So, you ready for this? What is your ultimate geek fantasy?
My ultimate geek fantasy would be to go into the Lord of the Rings and live with the elves in Rivendell.
Wow. You did not hesitate. This is
No.
awesome. This is awesome. Most people, it's like, oh, that's a hard one. I've got to think. You were just like, bam. This is awesome.
I know what I like. Elves.
Elves. Well, Christen Stoval, I've got some great news for you. You've made it through the Geek Seat. Congratulations. Mr. Mike Gordon, tell the young lady what she's won.
You have won a lifetime subscription to the ESO network, a value easily worth $64.08.
Hey, we've grown up.
Yay!
But the bad thing is it's only in station money. It's not real.
Oh, well. That's okay. I play Slow Tour and I have lots and lots of credits in that game, so.
It has been great to chat with you. Where can people go to find out more about what you're doing in your books and how they can get them?
The very best place to go would be the Boundless Fantasy page on Facebook. I am the best at updating that and keeping it going. That's the first place I'll make announcements. They can also follow my personal Facebook account, which is Christen Stovall. I have a website, Boundless Fantasy Books. I am grudgingly on Twitter and TikTok, and I like Instagram. And pretty much you can just look for my name on all of those.
Awesome. Well, we will have the links for those in our show notes so people can just click on those things and check out your books and buy a few, right?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think they'll like them. So
I think so too. You've definitely sold me. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Awesome. Let's take a quick break, and we are going to be back in a moment, and we are going to be looking at the movie. Ready for this? Moonstruck. And that's it. We're done.
All right. Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
I'm glad.
I don't think Christen was ready.